All right, everybody. Welcome back. We are here for day 2 of the 8th annual Sync Up Conference here in New Orleans at the Jazz and Heritage Center in the Treme neighborhood. And our next panel is about a very, very interesting company. I'll call it an internet company, a digital distribution platform that I think has a lot of interesting lessons for all of us, called BitTorrent. Is everybody familiar with BitTorrent? All right, hey y'all, settle down or take it outside. We were supposed to have 2 folks from BitTorrent joining us today. Unfortunately, one of them had a sudden family emergency and had to catch a quick plane out of town. But Austin Briggs from BitTorrent is here. Let's have a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Austin, you used to live in New Orleans.
I did. I did for 5 or 6 years.
And where are you from originally?
New Yorker originally. And
okay.
Then, bounced around quite a bit, but ended up in New Orleans.
How did you end up in New Orleans?
Followed a girl who's now my wife.
That's what happens in most cases. Yeah.
And it was also, same story. Came to Jazz Fest when I was 17 and immediately knew I was going to live here at some point in time in my life, If you're a first-timer, move down,
So tell us about how, so you joined BitTorrent, within the past year or so?
I was almost a year to the day, actually.
Okay.
Just about a year.
So tell me how you first encountered BitTorrent and how you learned about how they are, and then want to talk about how you transitioned over there, and then talk about the platform as an interesting digital distribution platform for independent artists. So how did you first learn about it?
So when I was in New Orleans, I was working with an artist named Curren, who's signed to Atlantic Records, big hip-hop artist from down here. And it's just a really unique following that he had. It's kind of like, I kind of like to refer to it as like the fish of hip-hop. It was, direct to fan, distributed his music, direct to his audience via a Twitter feed. Not a lot of radio support, but could go on tour and sell 2,000 tickets a night. And it didn't have to be on cycle. It was just the fact that he was there and the brand that he had built was so strong and the fans were so committed to it that we could make our own rules. He turned down a ton of major label deals before he signed a deal, and he got the deal that he wanted, which was really unique. And we had a lot of freedom, much more so than the average artist does in that stage. So Pretty Lights had just done what was the first real big kind of BitTorrent bundle. It was still totally an experiment. It took hours and days to build the product and have it ready to ship. The response, the case studies when I was going through were just mind-boggling about the amount of traffic that it was creating. Whoa, there's the proximity, got it. It was just the amount of traffic that was generated, the amount of users that were touched, and it was touching current fans, it was touching new fans who were discovering the music. The traffic was converting over to his website, to his socials, to his merchandise, to his ticketing, and it was just immediately identifiable that this is totally something unique from a digital distribution standpoint. And it seemed like it was something that was really relevant to the scene that we were working with. So we were preparing a mixtape, which is traditionally was just a free to fans kind of thing. You put it out, you wouldn't get anything out of it. You just see a download number. You wouldn't get an email address. You wouldn't know where the fans were who were downloading it. So we decided let's offer it in 2 places and give fans the option. And with Bundle, it's not like iTunes where you have 12 MP3s and an image, and then you have to send your fan to YouTube to watch your video, or in SoundCloud to listen to your new single, and then you're trying to get them back to your merch store or your ticketing page to ultimately support you directly. And that's really difficult. You lose fans every click. Every time they have to move, you lose another percentage of that audience. Bundle allows you to put that all in one package together.
All right, maybe we should take a step back and make sure that everybody is on the same page and understands what BitTorrent is, perhaps, and what it isn't.
Yeah, that's a great question.
So first, talk a little bit about the history of BitTorrent and what its function has been. And the reason that we asked you to be here is to talk about how the company is actually trying to transition into a different type of space.
Yes. So there's 2 different types of, BitTorrent can refer to 2 different things. The first is an internet protocol that is an open source piece of code that was released, I believe, in 2002, 2003 by our founder, who invented it while sleeping on his friend's couch. And he just put it out into an engineer forum, open source, take this and do what you want with it, internet.
So it's a peer-to-peer file sharing platform.
Yes, that's generally the idea. What it does is, the belief behind BitTorrent is that we believe that the internet should lie with the end user. It should not be centralized in servers. If you put all of the information and the onus on the end user, it's how you create a truly democratic internet. You don't have gatekeepers, you don't have controllers that can limit how servers are used and how you can access your files and how quickly you can access your files. That's not what the internet was designed to be. The internet was designed to be something that empowered a middle class user that was completely democratized. And with servers, all of your information is being collected. You don't know who has access to those servers, and that's a really scary thing. So Bram, our founder, identified that in 2002, 2003, and developed and invented a protocol that allowed the users to control the data and a collection of users to become a swarm that is more powerful than just a direct pipe. Normally you have a server, and everybody's hitting that server in the same pipe. So if you have 1,000 people hitting it at the same time, you're being slowed down.
Wait, so your founder invented peer-to-peer file sharing?
He invented the BitTorrent protocol.
Okay. Because we know of peer-to-peer from, Napster.
Yeah, precisely.
And those things. So we all remember when, like in the early 2000s, I guess, when and credited or blamed with the downfall of the recorded music industry. So people are then able to easily share among this network free digital music files and download them for free, and that pretty much caused recorded music revenue to crater, and that's what led to the situation that we're in, right?
Yeah, Napster was a little bit different in that. So the way that BitTorrent works at its core is, say you have a very large digital file. When it's broken down into a torrent file is a very, very small little file that's just a seed, and you enter it into a client, and it then finds all of the other users in the world who also have that same seed. Okay. And then the file itself is broken up into hundreds or thousands of smaller pieces. And then it identifies all of the users who all have those same pieces and starts pulling from them in a way that it prioritizes who's going to give you the most, the fastest, who's sharing the most, and optimizes your download so you can transfer massive amounts of information much, much more quickly.
See, that's way too technical for me. I don't understand any of that.
It's definitely an interesting idea to grasp, for sure. But it's pretty much using the power of a community. It's using everybody's servers together to work to optimize that download.
To give away shit for free. Let's just talk about it.
So this is another thing that's the difference between BitTorrent and BitTorrent Inc. So BitTorrent, the protocol is open source. It's available online. And its primary function is not to give shit away for free. Some other really, there's plenty and arguably more legitimate use cases for BitTorrent than illegitimate uses. The Large Hadron Collider, all of those scientists transfer their data because it's so large, they can't do it via service. They transfer it using BitTorrent technology. Facebook, Twitter, Etsy, all of these massive, massive internet companies, global server-wide updates, all done by torrent technology because it's faster, it's optimized.
All right, so torrents are a better technology for distributing large amounts of information, like a big music file or a suite of files, like if it's an album, in a more efficient manner. What most people know about these things is that, as we've been saying, it's primarily how people have been giving this music to their friends and sharing it among their and the people that are the owners of that music, the record companies, the artists, the publishers, are not getting compensated for that. So as far as I can tell, what is interesting is that BitTorrent seems to be wanting to leverage that same technology, but in a way that allows for what people sometimes call a pay gate, or some sort of payment mechanism. So actually you can now take the popularity of this stuff and monetize it, and people can actually be compensated for their music. So where did this all come from, and how does it work?
So BitTorrent kind of became a weird verb, BitTorrent something. BitTorrent Inc., we invented the protocol, yet the protocol is open source. It lives on the internet. It's a living, breathing thing. The best comparison is, HTTP. BitTorrent, HTTP was designed for text and JPEGs in the early 90s. They did not have 4K video, HD streaming, FLAC file streaming in mind when they did it, when that was invented. And Bram, our founder, identified that that was a problem moving into the future and that the current system wasn't going to work. So when, as BitTorrent kind of, the protocol expanded, there wasn't a company there. It was an open source code for years. So the company came around years later. And BitTorrent Inc., we kind of, there was a real branding issue there for a while, which has been, turning in the past 3 or 4 years, to take control of our company brand. And one of the big things was recognizing, the issue, obviously, with piracy, and how can we impact that in a positive way. And people think, oh, just shut it down, that will work. And no, that won't work. You're just going to drive users elsewhere. And you'll drive them to more illegitimate means that you won't be able to connect with them in any way, shape, or form. So the one thing that we do have is this massive, massive user base of 170 million monthly active users, 45 to 55 million daily active users, 800,000 and 1.2 million people downloading the clients on a daily basis around the world. And it is completely global. So if you have internet.
So there's an app, so to speak, of BitTorrent that if you want to use it as a consumer, you have to download this program onto your computer so you can access stuff like,
Precisely. It's a third-party client, yes.
Okay, so if I'm an artist and I have an independent release and I want maybe to let people hear one track for free, but I actually want people to buy my record, and I don't want to give iTunes 30% of the gross revenue, how does it work with BitTorrent? How do I sign up with you, and what's the percentage that you take, and how do people find out about my music, and how do we get them to actually put money in my pocket?
So yeah, the goal with Bundle and why Bundle was created, because we identified the issue and we wanted to address it in a constructive way. It never works to try and shut the internet down and tell users what to do. That just is inherently not how the internet works. So we wanted to build a better system inside of our client and offer legitimate content. All of our user studies that we have done and analyzed have shown that our fans actually our users buy more content than the average internet user. They consider their taste to be underground, eclectic. They consider themselves tastemakers. They seek out content. So we wanted to take high-quality content and serve it inside of our clients in an engaging way and build the platform that allows fans to connect and discover the artists that they want to support directly.
So we're looking at your website here,
Yeah,
and so
exactly.
these are artists that are featured bundles. So it's kind of like in iTunes where you have this is our store,
Yep.
and people, you can search for different music. These are the ones that are trending. This is the stuff that's interesting. I don't know any of these people.
No, so yeah, there's definitely some there. You got David Cross's new album from Edward Sharpe. And
Oh, well, here's the
Magnetic
big one,
Zeros.
Thom Yorke.
Thom Yorke, now that was a great project.
So, all right, so what happens? So the bundle is the album, right?
Yeah, this came out in September. Thom Yorke was actually the first pay-gated bundle that we ever did. The first time that we sold a protected torrent file to fans to purchase Tom's exclusive.
All right, so he's
new
giving
album.
you the option to download some files for free.
So
Or you can buy everything for $6 for an album. That's a pretty cheap deal.
So the way the bundle works is that we want to, once again, our belief about the internet is that it should belong to the end user. In the same way, a publisher should be able to control how they distribute their content to their fan directly. You're dealing with the issues of freemium right now, where free users on streaming services can access all of the same libraries that they can access, as a paid user. And that's pretty confusing, and it's definitely confusing to an artist who's, how does that work? Why does someone who pay $9.99 a month get the same exact stuff that, someone who doesn't have to pay $9.99 a month?
That is a challenge.
Yeah. So the way the bundle works is it's a gating system. So the first content that you interact with is the free portion of the bundle, and you as the publisher or as the label, as the manager, filmmaker, whatever it may be, you can select what content you want your fan to see for free. So if you have a new single, if you have a trailer, if you have some sort of engaging offer that you want a new fan who's discovering, or a current fan that you just want to service in a nice way, you decide what's available for free. And then you can place a gate that requires a bit more engagement from a fan to unlock those premium files. And the 2 options or 3 options that are available on Bundle right now, or the first is an email gate where the user has to enter their email.
All right, so you're collecting their email address, so that's valuable.
Super valuable. Or, with Thom Yorke, we launched pay-gated bundles where you can set a flat payment or a pay-what-you-want payment to unlock premium files. Now, the big difference between Bundle and all of the other distributors and streaming services is that not only do we believe that artists deserve 90% of their revenue, that is the payment cut. We take 10% of the gross purchase, 90% goes directly to the artist. And that's directly into their PayPal or Stripe accounts. The transaction happens immediately. There isn't this kind of third party holding your money on your behalf.
You don't get quarterly statements or anything.
Precisely. It's all real time. But in addition, we believe that you should own your data. That's the most important thing. Like if you're a business and you don't know anything about your market.
You mean the customer data?
Yeah, the customer. I mean, how are you going to be able to sell or
So do you get their location? Their
do.
what city and country they live in?
Precisely. Yeah. So
Zip
we actually don't get that information as a company.
You're missing out, bro.
Yeah. We don't. And it's part of what we believe is that we don't deserve it. They're not coming because they wanted to. They're like, oh, I really love BitTorrent Bundle. I want to support, They're coming because they support the artist. And we want to build a system that supports that artist. So if we can build a mechanism that allows you to identify your fan base, identify where they are, identify who are the ones that are going to pay you $20 versus $5 for a project, and then allow you to capitalize on them on the way that you see fit.
So if I'm a musician and I want to put something on BitTorrent to sell, do I set my own price, or do you set the price?
No, everything is completely publisher controlled. So you would click that publish button right on the top bar right there, and it's a completely open platform. You set up an account.
So can anybody upload their music and sell it on BitTorrent?
And it's not just music either. It's anything that's digital content. If it's ones and it's zeros, we can pack it, we can ship it, and it's not dependent on size. We've done bundles. We did a bundle release with Soundtribe Sector 9 where they gave away 15 gigs of every show from 2014.
But you're not curating it and only accepting certain people in?
No, it's completely open. We do, as far as who we provide campaigns and support and digital marketing support and PR support around certain releases.
Are those services that you charge for?
No, everything is completely free. It's really just a matter of if it's the right brand fit and, if it's something that, we really like to support as a company.
So, all right. So anybody can upload their stuff. So it might not necessarily find its way onto the featured page necessarily, but
at one point in time it would. Yeah, when it is recently added, it would. And then we allow the audience to to decide how those bundles are being curated on the front page. If it's a popular bundle, it's going to work its way up to the front.
Okay, so recently added, these are just ones that have suddenly come online, and that's like an automatic populated thing, or is there somebody saying, oh, let's feature this guy?
Oh, no, we do, especially with the paid content, we are very, very strict about making sure that, we're not servicing any illegal content in any infringing ways. The team that I work with at Bundle, it's astounding how much they care about artist rights, and how much they care about privacy, and how much they care about trying to make a positive impact on the industry. It's really it's great to walk into the office on a daily basis and be around that. So we believe in protecting and making sure that everything that we're putting out there is 110%, and that it's coming directly from the owners.
So if I'm an artist trying to release my music into the world, and I figure that, well, users all over the world are using Spotify, so I should be on Spotify. Users all over the world are using Pandora. I'm not going to make any money on that one, but I need to be there because that's where the world is. Everybody's on iTunes. I need to be on iTunes, although I don't like the fact that they take 30% of my money, and it's hard to get on there because they're like curating things, and I'm independent, and they don't want me. What's the advantage for using a BitTorrent? I mean,
well, Bundle, it really is about empowering you to empower your fan base directly. And those tools don't really exist in the world of Spotify and Pandora and iTunes. You kind of, once it's up and once it's there, it's living in this place amongst 20 million other songs. And how do How do you differentiate between yourselves?
And Spotify's not giving me any of my listeners' email addresses.
No, none of them are. They're using that information to market their platforms on their own behalf, and that, inherently I find to be a real problem. I work with artists too. I'm an artist manager. Thanks, Micah, for the Earfunk shout out. My partner Alex is in the crowd as well, who runs Point on Earfunk. And things are so dramatically different now, even than they were 5 years ago. Everybody's on Spotify, everybody's on iTunes. These things didn't exist 3 or 4 years ago. Who's to say that they're going to exist in 3 to 4 years? And the same thing with Bundle. We don't know where the internet's going. We don't know what the future is going to hold. But we certainly believe, we've been able to build this audience of almost 200 million users around the world. We believe that the future of the internet is a truly democratized place where it's no longer controlled by massive server farms and the Googles and the Apples of the world controlling. And you're already starting to see that that stranglehold starting to happen where they're trying to capture more and more and shut. YouTube's a perfect example. Major labels get one contract from YouTube for the music partner agreement. Independent labels get a completely different offer. Spotify is another great example. We pay 70% of all of our revenue directly to our fans.
So you guys are like the hippie utopian internet.
That's, I guess, something along those lines.
It could be, Spotify is the man, and you guys are like the rebels.
And it's definitely I think idealistic is the word.
Okay.
And an interesting thing about Spotify is Spotify was actually originally built off of a torrent model as well. And now that system has since converted a little bit, but they were using BitTorrent protocol to power that back end.
But with Spotify, nobody knows how much they're paying.
Well, they say they're paying 70% of the of all revenue that's coming in. But that is there's a significant gray area there because there are licensing deals that are being made directly with the major labels for entire pieces of catalog, undisclosed amounts of money on an annual basis that's rumored to be in the 9 figures. None of that money is making its way to the artist. None of it. There's absolutely none. And the justification for that is that it's a catalog deal. I'm not selling your content as an artist. I'm selling our content as a catalog. And they've found a way to work it out in their contract around digital rights that is a legitimate and acceptable on their behalf. And we don't think that's the future of the internet. That we don't think that's sustainable. I think New Orleans is the perfect example of how important middle class communities are to music culture. And if you lose that, then if you don't have a reason why kids are going to go play trumpet and go play drums and learn how to play instruments so they can have a community to support, then that's not going to exist. And that's really, really scary to me. You're already seeing it in Nashville. There's less songwriters that are living as songwriters. It's much more difficult to make it. We were just listening to 3 agents who have a wonderful roster of artists who I know. It's very challenging to make it and to make a career and to be able to sustain. And none of these systems that are out there right now are really, empowering those artists in any way, shape, or form. The Spotify model, the major labels own 25% of Spotify. So when that IPO happens, it's going to be a big payout going to, the powers that be.
So if I'm an independent artist and all I care about is getting my music out to folks, I just want them to hear my music, but more importantly, I want them to buy it. I want them to hear. So here's a great example. So we have Diplo here, who's very popular, and you can get some music for free. Looks like there's 17 free audio files, and then there's premium stuff that you can pay for.
Yep. And actually, we kind of glossed over this a little bit. So as far as what you can do with Bundle, how can you entice a fan to buy something? Mm-hmm. You can offer them insight into the creative process and offer them a package that you can't offer anywhere else. And Diplo is a perfect example. If you scroll down there, a little bit more. Okay, so right here, these are pictures of so this was 10th anniversary of his one of his biggest albums, Florida. This year was the 10th anniversary release. So he went through all of his old emails and everything related to that project 10 years ago, and put this really, really amazing package together for fans. These are actually the original prints of the mixtape that he gave to DJs and fans. And this is about a 10-page email chain.
This one here?
Yeah, that is all of his conversations as far as trying to get signed by a label. He's offering you the insight, like, this is my story. And here's the, the full story. I think that's a PDF file, and it's also, like, incredibly large.
Yeah, well, it ain't happening.
It's not a preview, but the other photos are.
All right.
But, you can tell a real story, and you can't do that with 12 songs and a 400 by 400 pixel image, there's so much that goes into making a record these days, and the way to empower an audience is to use all of that content to support each other, not have to support 5 different other platforms because you have to play by that model.
Well, I love the idea that I could put my music up for BitTorrent. I can determine what price I want to sell it for. I can give some away for free if I want to. I can charge for the others. I guess my concern is, I don't need any special software if I'm gonna. Well, I guess maybe I do. I mean, if I'm going to use Spotify, there's an app that I need to get. There's an app for iTunes.
Let's just say there might be an app for bundle here pretty soon, perhaps.
Okay. Well, I certainly hope so.
Perhaps.
So, but is it going to be a turnoff to my fans if I tell them, well, you have to download a client? What's a client? I have no idea. Am I running into roadblocks just by the technology or in the fact that people don't know about it?
Well, I think you run into the same roadblock really with anything.
Okay.
A fan likes to, I like to buy vinyl. So if you're an artist, you don't put out a vinyl, then you're roadblocking me. Some users like to use Spotify, some users like to use iTunes, and that's users are going to respond how they want to respond.
Mm-hmm.
We feel like if you offer them a better package, they're going to. This kind of ties back to the first Currency project that we did. We had a mixtape that was a bunch of MP3s, mm-hmm. and then we had we included merch coupons. We included an image that you could print out at home and bring to the merch table at the upcoming tour to get a piece of free merchandise, behind-the-scenes videos, pictures of his lyric books, a full package. And we saw, there were users that went and got the mixtape by MP3 because that's what they wanted, and that was, great. We want those fans to get the content that they want, the way they want to. But this bundle, we got 65,000 email addresses from that release, and this is before I was with the company. So this is from a user standpoint.
And the artist got all of those email addresses.
The artist got every one of those email addresses. So when
which you do not get from iTunes.
Which you do not get from iTunes.
Okay.
And another really engaging thing that we're able to do too is you can include links inside the bundle to drive users to other properties. So they download the bundle. They're in their download file folder going through the files, and all of a sudden they get hit with calls to action to go buy tickets, go buy the physical copy of the album, go buy merchandise.
So if I click on download now, is it going to automatically start downloading this stuff to
it
my
won't.
computer?
It
Do
will,
I
it will
have to
first
have a program installed?
It will identify if the client is on your machine or not, and then if it's not, it will walk you through the process of downloading the client. If you already have it, it will immediately kick off the download. Yeah.
Okay. And so how long does it take to get the music and to start listening and all that?
We web seed everything in addition to having it powered by the Swarm, so it's always pretty immediate.
Download, and it comes down in MP3?
MP3, whatever the user, the Edward Sharpe album we released a couple weeks ago, he did one bundle that was MP3, one bundle that was FLAC, allowed the user to choose which one they want.
So if I use iTunes on my phone to listen to music, I can download the bundle from BitTorrent and then import it into my iPhone?
Precisely, yeah.
Okay. Do you also do high definition audio files like WAV files or?
Yeah, once again, it's up to the user. We can pack it and we can ship it, yes, and more efficiently than everybody else as well.
But the new high def audio stuff, like with what Neil Young is doing,
exactly. and Titles of the World,
and all this. So are there artists that are putting up the massive audio files?
Absolutely. Soundtribe was another example that did the same, Edward Sharpe. Thom Yorke, we were going to offer the FLAC in the Thom Yorke bundle, but we really wanted to make sure it was just really, really, optimized, and that was the first launch. We hit play.
Is it true that Thom Yorke made $20 million off of what he sold?
No, it is not.
It's on the internet.
Yeah, there's a lot of things on the internet. Additionally, kind of going back into, privacy and owning your data, I can't disclose how that did unless Thom says, hey guys, go ahead and disclose it. And that's going to be an option that's going to be offered soon in the future on Bundle that, you can report to SoundScan if you like, or you can withhold that information if you like. And that should be up to you as a user.
How many downloads did he have?
It did, including paid and free downloads, it did 4.4 million downloads in total. So I believe that article, that article was just like, well, let's just take that number and multiply it by 6, which you can run that story, go for it. But no, he didn't make $20 million, but it was an incredibly successful campaign. I can't really go too much into that.
Well, why did he do it on BitTorrent? Why did he do it on BitTorrent? What was the point of releasing it out there?
So Radiohead, launched the first pay what you want model with the In Rainbows release. And Thom is just very, very adamant about finding the most direct way to get to his audience. And he doesn't believe that iTunes, and I don't want to speak too much on Thom Yorke's behalf, but in our conversations with him, it was, how do we democratize the internet? How do we remove the gatekeepers? And there's a really wonderful note that when he released the album, it was the only statement that he released. It was him and Nigel Godrich put this really wonderful letter together to address why they were doing it. And really, it's a matter of, a gatekeeper-driven internet is not the future. We need, the internet is so powerful because it's an open form of communication that's not controlled by anybody, and that's in real danger right now. When you think about how the internet was used 20 years ago when it was first launched, and how people are still using it, how social media is being used for productive ways, not to take pictures of food, even though there's wonderful food here to take pictures of, but to spur on social change and social movements.
I thought the internet was because people like cats.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And that's cool too. And you should have that.
No, it's not.
But what it is I would prefer that if I watch cat videos that I don't go on Facebook and then get slammed with cat ads about, getting new catnip or, whatever it may be, And I personally, I just feel kind of weird when that happens. I feel like I'm being tracked in a weird way. And that's, and that's why that's, a crux of what we believe in as a company is that your usage of the internet should be private. It shouldn't be anybody's information. It shouldn't be stored anywhere. It shouldn't be in some cloud that the NSA has access to get into. That's really, really scary. And the fact that all of your text messages, emails, everything, all of your metadata on any internet transaction or movement that you've made is stored in some big giant complex somewhere in the country. And that's, I don't really.
So I have to go on WikiLeaks to get BitTorrent stuff?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
We're getting into some
right.
heavier internet.
Do we have any questions? Does anybody have any questions about BitTorrent? All right. Can you come and use the microphones, please?
Hi. I was just wondering what you touched on it a little bit earlier, but what's your mobile strategy? Because you're seeing more and more mobile devices come in. People not necessarily owning computers. They're just their phones, their tablets, whatever, that don't necessarily support BitTorrent clients. What is your strategy to get on those devices without having to sync them to a secondary computer?
Right on. That's a good question. So first, in the Android space, and the BitTorrent and uTorrent client apps are actually, I believe, still in the top 10. We actually just crossed last week 100 million mobile installs on Android, which is a tremendous number. Super, super high rating kind of across the board, great feedback from everyone on it. iOS is a little bit more challenging, just in the way that Apple approaches the protocol. There's kind of some real technicality things that I don't want to kind of get into, we're resolving that. In the next few months, you might see a bundle app, coming across your app store. Might, perhaps.
It's rumored.
It's rumored.
You heard it here at Sync Up.
Yes, precisely.
I'm just saying.
Tweet, Instagram, you heard it here first.
Hashtag Sync Up NOLA, please.
Yep, hashtag Sync Up NOLA.
Hey, how you doing? Thank you so much for your efforts. This is really exciting, and thanks for bringing this to us.
Do you guys
Scott.
use BitTorrent in Hawaii?
I listen to mostly CDs and internet radio.
Right.
So I'm an audiophile kind of person, and so I don't have a good computer music playback system yet. It's coming. Two questions.
I hear they have the internet in Hawaii.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
But so I listen anyways. I'll address that later. But two things. So artist supportive. Do you have any simple how-to guides? There's a lot of artists in Hawaii that we're so isolated. I try to help artists when I can. So that's question number one, and then I'll just throw out question number two. Tags on to the question we just had, which is wonderful. So a hindrance I see with this that sounds like you're already addressing, I'm curious if you definitely are, is with the explosion of streaming, people want to be able to, it'd be a drag to not be able to, it'd be great to stream your Spotify, have a playlist with Spotify and your BitTorrent files. And is that something that you guys are actively looking at?
Yes, yeah. To address the first question, we've already got it up. The BitTorrent blog.bittorrent.com, and then there's a new bundle blog that launched a couple months ago that's bundle.media. Both are active resources for publisher tips and how to use the platform. We also have a very highly engaged support team. If there are any questions or anything like that, you can contact us directly, and you'll probably be hit back within a few hours by our team. Those would be the best resources. There's been a ton of press too that has been great. Our communications team has been great about getting out. Anytime that stories are pushed out there, that there is a pretty substantial amount of explanation on how this could work for you. In response to the question about kind of the mobile situation and the future, I would say one thing we I did gloss over on is that bundle in its current form is stream and download. So you can go onto a bundle page and hit play right away and start consuming content.
Can I do that from my phone?
Yep, from your phone as well. Download,
but there's not a phone app. I would have to go on the internet.
Yeah, you would have to use through your web browser.
Okay.
Perhaps in the very near future, there may be an application that where all of that is self-contained in one app, much like Spotify in a desktop.
I heard a rumor about that at SyncUp, actually.
Yeah.
Would it be something where you could stream both a Spotify, put a playlist together with both Spotify files and other files as well?
I'll have to talk to my project manager on that.
You know where I'm going on that? Do you see that?
No,
you
absolutely.
See that need out there?
Yeah,
is
for sure. Like I said earlier, users are going to listen how they want to listen. Spotify is great for artist discovery. Spotify Radio is great. It's super convenient for users. But I think that when users are using it, they know that it might not be the most optimal system for artists. And I think the Tidal launch really, you saw that. Tidal, when Tidal launched, it was kind of this, okay, great, we're reinventing streaming, and then everybody was like, wait, how? How's the monetization model different? How are artists getting paid any different? And the fact that was such a massive response from fans was really astounding to us. And it's actually causing us to really make an interesting push in the world of subscription and streaming, perhaps in the very near future. But yeah, as far as making cross-platform opportunities available and social sharing and things like that, for sure, that's definitely a long-term plan. There's a lot to take on when kind of building something like this out, for sure. But definitely, integration between multiple platforms is something we're going to dig into for sure.
I'm actually usually more partial to having the ability to download the file as opposed to just streaming, because what if you're on the plane?
Precisely.
Or someplace that doesn't have a good web connection. So
everybody's different. We like to download. Everybody needs their own way to do it, and that's kind of the big goal of Bundle is not only do we want to give artists the container to allow them to deliver things. That's one thing is we're not trying to sell a bundle subscription.
Why do you call it a bundle?
Just as a bundle. Actually, that decision was made before I was at the company. But,
but if you were king, what would you call it?
Bundle.
I got a tip for you. Album.
Yeah. But we'll see, once again, we'll see where we are in 3 or 4 years.
That's true.
Yeah.
Oh yes, the album will be extinct, and we'll all be having
I personally
bundles
believe
in our collection.
that albums aren't going anywhere. It's just there's more flexibility these days. You don't have to be limited by putting out albums now. That's you can put out an album when you're ready to put out an album.
But artists are like, here's Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros, who, Alex was actually a panelist at this conference last year and lives here in New Orleans now and owns a recording studio here. Artists, are they making exclusive deals with BitTorrent? So if I put out a record on BitTorrent, does that mean I cannot put it on iTunes or on my own website? What does it mean?
You own your data, so you can do whatever you like with it as far as we're concerned. If you would like to exclusively release it through us, we will not discourage you from doing that.
Is there an advantage to doing that?
I think that part of the future is, once again, everybody listens their own way. And, in the long term, in my opinion, is it the best option to have, your content available in one place? Kind of depends on what it is, but probably no. If it's an album, you probably want it eventually everywhere. But coming from the management side, how can I capitalize the most on this release? And I think that's where you're really starting to see windowing in a release kind of coming to effect. Taylor Swift kind of nailed it this year with that,
I mean, when she took her stuff off Spotify.
Yeah, and it really, it kind of wasn't, it was seen as kind of this big publicity stunt, or but she just did a really intelligent windowed release. I'm not going to put my content out available for free when I'm releasing it for sale on the same day. It kind of seems like it makes sense. If you want my record, go to the record store and get it. And if you want it on a streaming service, you're going to have to wait a little while. And I don't think that's too much for a fan to ask. If you want it now, go out and support me the ways that I want you to support it. And this is what I think is best. But at the same time, you can't keep your fan outside the door and say that you're not allowed in unless you're going to do it my way. I don't think that's helpful.
If I make a record and I want to upload it to BitTorrent to distribute as a bundle, how long does it take from the time I click upload to the time that I can see it on my laptop?
So from a publisher standpoint and just kind of using the back end, it's kind of pretty comparable to if you're uploading stuff to SoundCloud or those kind of other servers. So as long as it takes to upload,
but it's not like somebody on your side is screening the content and making sure it's appropriate.
Not
and that kind
screening
of thing.
And that kind. Well, there is, if you want to put up some content up for sale, we're gonna put it through its paces and make sure that content is being legally distributed and that you own it. That process only takes anywhere from it's pretty comparable to if you were on putting up something on TuneCore or something like that, anywhere from 24 to 72 hours generally.
Okay, so a few days. So as an artist, it's not an insurmountable technological leap to get it up on there, and you're not discriminating against people. You're not saying no, we're not taking any heavy metal or
no,
whatever.
No, not at all. No, absolutely not. However, if you're, one thing that we don't allow is, remixes and things like things that you don't have clearance for. If you don't have clearance to use it, then you probably shouldn't be selling it.
And so, if I'm a rap artist and I have all sorts of samples in my record, I mean, Currency's up there. I don't know whether he's using samples. Or not.
Those are all original records. So.
And so you have a process to make sure to screen for samples and that type of thing.
Precisely, and constantly improving on that on a regular basis.
But from an artist marketing standpoint, if I have 40,000 followers on my Facebook page, and I say, okay, I'm putting out this new record. Here's a link to the record. It could be a SoundCloud link. It could be a YouTube link. It could be a Spotify link. It could be a BitTorrent link. Whatever it is. I mean, my audience probably doesn't necessarily care which one it is, as long as it's available.
If they want to support you, they're going to support you, and that's I think that's one thing that we've kind of once again that I took away from that title launch is that fans are looking for a way to support artists. They really do. They really want to. I mean, I'm sure everybody in this room. If you had an option to pay a company to buy something or pay the artist and the fan, that you want to support directly, I imagine all of you would probably want to support the artist directly if you're in this room. And I think that's a pretty universal idea,
So BitTorrent is an artist-friendly,
Absolutely.
independent artist-friendly
Absolutely.
distribution platform that I can get all the customer data and keep 90% of the revenue that's generated.
You get the same deal as Thom Yorke, yeah.
Well, all right. He and I have a lot in common.
And that is one thing that is inherently different, that if you, as an independent artist, put your content up on some of the major platforms, you do not get the same deal. It is not democratic, and that is not cool. It's not that doesn't allow for a constructive and a real future to exist. Once again, for that middle class core of artists, that it's a strong middle class creates a strong upper class. It creates an opportunity, rising tides raise all boats, and I think that's really,
We know
really
about
crucial.
that in New Orleans.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Ooh. All right. And does anybody else have any questions for Austin while we're here? Yeah. Oh, hi, Suzette. How are you?
I was really interested in what you just said, and that you're protecting the songwriters and the publishers. So my question is, how do you verify that the songs that are on that album are actually original content by the artist? Do you do like disc makers would do and require them to show you the mechanical licenses, or what do you do?
We communicate directly with managers and publishers, and usually it's pretty identifiable pretty quick, if you're dealing with someone who's on the up and up or not. When it gets a little bit more kind of need to dig in, we have a legal team that gets involved, and we'll make sure that. And once again, it's about protecting artists.
Do you use one of those digital scanning programs?
No, we do not do DRM. We're not really. I don't really think that DRM is necessarily super positive for the future, but I understand. There's a reason why it exists. But no, we're kind of talking about a bunch of different options for how to kind of improve upon the current systems that are out there too for verification, because there are things that get flagged incorrectly now with a lot of those systems that are being used, and we want to make sure that doesn't happen. If it is legitimate, it deserves to be out there, and so it's kind of it's on a case by case basis a bit. It's a lot of open communication and then a lot of due diligence on our end, kind of at the same time.
Is there a way for a songwriter who's not like a famous songwriter, a song that you wouldn't initially recognize, to get a hold of you and say, hey, by the way, that's a cover of my song?
Absolutely, and we subscribe to DMCA, so
Okay.
If we get a DMCA takedown, that gets taken down immediately, and kind of in that same vein, the MPAA, the RIAA, those organizations we work really closely with, and it's kind of there's this idea that and this understanding that we're in the contentious relationships with those folks, and we're really not. We're in a very, very positive, open communications with all of those teams on a regular basis.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions? One more.
How would you differentiate yourself from services like Bandcamp or other digital services that aren't quite on the same level as iTunes or the Google Play?
I love Bandcamp. I would rock a Bandcamp T-shirt every day. I think it is such an important platform that's out there. Ultimately they struggle. I don't want to say struggle. They're doing very well. What we have that's a little bit different and more unique is that we have 170 million monthly active users that we can put content in front of, and that's a really, really powerful thing. So then it's a little bit different because Bandcamp kind of built from ground up. We're going to build the service and build up the users and build artists directly. We had the users and we had the system in place, and we're kind of doing this as a reaction, and as a manner that we see as being a productive solution for the future. As far as Thom Yorke's after. The only other place that Tom's album actually is available is on Bandcamp. I think about a month or two ago it went up there, and that was a decision that we totally supported.
Can you buy it from Bandcamp?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. We totally support that. Bandcamp is a wonderful, wonderful organization, and those guys are really doing great things for independent artists.
Great. Okay.
Check it out if you haven't already.
Any other questions for Austin? One more. All right.
Big picture question. What you're talking about, supporting the middle class, is huge. And something with Tidal, the light bulb that went off in my head is there's no organization out there that is really putting the artist's voice out there. The Grammy Foundation's done some great things with insurance and some great representation of artists, but it's been the record label voice through RIA, who's partly invested in Spotify. So they say that Spotify is great. Well, it sucks for the middleman, and it's a problem. We're losing. The field is shrinking. So, what do you see? Looking at that at all about developing? That sounds like you are developing that voice for the middle America musician.
That's exactly the goal. I think had that Tidal press conference, had Jay-Z brought out 10 independent artists that you had never heard of, I think it would have gone completely differently. I don't think anybody really wants to hear Nicki Minaj and Daft Punk complain about that they're not making enough money. if you're having trouble getting by on tens to hundreds of millions of dollars a year, that's not the fans' fault or the streaming service's fault, you know. But yeah, you know, you're not going to have great artists. You know, Hosier's a really great example, actually, and one of the few that was able to break through on Spotify, you know. And they kind of use that as the example. Like, see, Spotify works for independent artists. And it's like, well, that's one. But, you know, Hosier, we need platforms that allow fans to discover more Hosiers, you know, it shouldn't be like, okay, I think that this guy's great, and I work at one of these streaming services, so we're going to give him the plug, you know, and that's, you know, a little bit of what happened, but, you know, ultimately his content was great, his music is wonderful, you know.
And he's on Top 40 Radio.
And he's on Top 40 Radio, which doesn't help, but he got there first by developing that audience in a grassroots manner. You know, and it is possible. It's not to say that it's not possible in the current systems. It's just really, really difficult, you know, and if we can connect, you know, fans directly with artists and help them discover artists that they, you know, that they like and they want to engage with, and allow them to exchange data and information, exchange transactions, take the lion's share of the money. You know, look, me from an artist standpoint, I look at Bundle and it's okay. I can release a single as an email gated campaign. I could get a couple hundred or a couple thousand, depending on who I am, email addresses. Then I have an album coming out in 2 months, so I can use those emails to support that album, release it on Bundle, get 90% of the revenue, and then I can distribute it elsewhere. But it makes it a little bit easier to kind of get back the initial investment of making all of that content. And it kind of, you know, it sucks when you pay $1,000 to bring a video guy into the studio or something like that, and then you put it on YouTube, and you don't make any money off it. And you can't. It's very difficult to connect the fact, like, how is this supporting a transaction? And going back to the, you know, the currency campaign and Bundle, being able to put an image that a fan could print out and bring to the merch table on tour and get a piece of merchandise. And I would say about 20 to 30%, maybe even more on some shows, you know, bought a t-shirt or, you know, bought a record or something like that. To have a digital product that allows you to connect your digital release to your merch table on tour, depending on the way that you use the platform, the way that you see fit, if that works for your audience, I think that's an incredibly powerful thing and something that can help you build a sustainable future as an artist.
Well, on that note, we are going to thank Austin Briggs for being here at the 8th annual Sync Up Conference at the Jazz and Heritage Center. Thank you all so much. We will be right back in just a few minutes with Matt Pincus from Songs Music Publishing. Don't go away.